All right, let's jump right in. So there's this stock out there, ticker symbol BRR, that's been acting, well, really weird. It's got these huge, wild swings, and everyone's talking about it. But here's the kicker. It has no product, zero sales, and absolutely no earnings to speak of. It's a real head-scratcher. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and figure out what is actually going on here.
So, as of right now, the stock's sitting at about $5.77. Just looking at that number, it doesn't tell you much. But to get the full picture, you have to see where it was just a little while ago.
Because earlier today, it rocketed up to $9.93. I mean, think about that. The stock practically doubled and then got chopped almost in half, all in the span of just a few hours. That is just not how a normal company's stock behaves. And that leads us to the big question, right? What in the world is BRR, and how can a company with no business, no revenue, cause this kind of chaos in the market? To figure that out, we've got to pop the hood and see what's inside. Okay, so the very first thing you need to know is that BRR isn't your typical company, not even close. It's something called a SPAC, and understanding that is the key to this whole puzzle. So, what the heck is a SPAC? The fancy term is Special Purpose Acquisition Company, but honestly, it's easier to think of it as a publicly traded pot of cash. A bunch of investors pool their money into this shell company with one goal and one goal only: to find a promising private company and merge with it, taking that company public without a traditional IPO. And that, right there, is BRR in a nutshell. It's a blank check company. A shell. There are no factories, no lines of code being written, no sales team hitting the phones, because there's literally no business yet. The entire value, every single penny of its stock price, is riding on the hope of a future deal. So, if it's just an empty shell right now, what's the grand plan? Well, this is where things get really fascinating. BRAR has this incredibly ambitious goal to go from being a hollowed-out corporate entity to becoming, of all things, a Bitcoin bank. Here's the step-by-step game plan. You start with the SPAC, which was originally called Columbus Circle Capital. They've found their target, a private company called ProCap BTC. Now, if the merger goes through, they'll combine to become a totally new company called ProCap Financial. And its mission? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Just buy up a ton of Bitcoin. Yeah, you heard that right. The company's whole goal is to be Bitcoin native. That means they're throwing out the old playbook. They're not going to be judged by profits or revenue in dollars. Instead, their number one metric, the thing they want investors to look at, is Bitcoin per share. The idea is to take the money they raise and just plow it into buying Bitcoin. Now, you can probably guess when you have a company that wants to measure itself in Bitcoin instead of dollars, the old ways of valuing a stock just go right out the window. This creates a completely new way to look at things, and it also raises some pretty big red flags. This chart just lays it all out. Normally, we look at things like revenue, earnings, PE ratios, concrete stuff. But with BRR, it's all about the story. It's about the narrative, the potential, and whether or not this merger will even succeed. The stock price isn't really following business performance. It's following the price of Bitcoin and the market's excitement about this wild idea. And that excitement has to overcome a lot of unknowns. I mean, we're talking huge gaps in information. There's no real revenue model to analyze. We don't have a public balance sheet to dig into. And let's not even get started on the regulatory minefield that comes with trying to call yourself a Bitcoin bank. This is truly uncharted territory. So with all this uncertainty floating around, is there anything concrete we can hold on to? Well, yes, there is a roadmap. And there are a few very, very important dates coming up that will basically decide if this whole experiment even gets to launch. Okay, so things are already in motion. The ticker symbol actually changed to BRR back in July. That was the first big signal. Right now, they're in the thick of it, filing all the detailed merger paperwork. But the date you really need to circle on your calendar is December 3rd. That is D-Day. That's when the shareholders get to vote, and their vote will decide everything. So when you put it all together, you've got the SPAC structure, this crazy new business model, all the unknowns, and this single make-or-break vote, it becomes really clear what this is. It's a high-stakes bet, plain and simple. And the source material we're looking at sums it up perfectly. This is a binary outcome. It's either going to work or it's going to fail spectacularly. There is really no in-between here. And you can almost see the two paths stretching out ahead. Path number one is success. The merger is approved, they start buying Bitcoin, and the value of the company grows. But path number two is failure. The vote fails, the deal collapses, and BRR goes right back to being an empty, basically worthless shell company.
So, if you take away one thing, let it be this. BRR is not a traditional stock. You're not investing in a business that makes and sells things. You are buying into a speculative vehicle. It's a bet on the future of crypto, wrapped up in this very new, very untested corporate package. And that really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Is this Bitcoin per share idea a brilliant look at the future of finance, a whole new way of creating value? Or is it just a classic speculative bubble, all hype and no substance, just waiting to pop? That's the multi-billion-dollar question that the market and that crucial vote on December 3rd is about to answer.